All right. Good morning, everybody. My name is Mike Patton. I'm Park Development Manager here at the City of Sioux Falls. Thank you so much for joining us this morning at a real jewel of the park system here, Arrowhead Park. With me today is Mike Cooper, Director of the Mary Jo Wagner Arboretum, as well as Jackie Nelson, our Recreation Manager. So excited today to unveil kind of the final deliverable here on the completion of the Arrowhead House, which is a new addition to the park system and will serve as a community gathering spot here for the future. So it was a two-phase project we've done to renovate the house here at Arrowhead. First phase involved renovation of the house itself, including improvements here, the interior of the house, as well as a large deck structure located here behind me. Second phase was site improvements, which involved taking care of the parking lot, pedestrian connection, drainage, landscaping, etc. Overall, the project involved adding new HVAC, as well as flooring, painting walls, converting it from an old house into a gathering spot with restrooms, full kitchen, classroom space, and room for over 100 people here to gather inside. The large deck is over 3,000 square feet in total and can serve up to 175 people. The views off that deck are incredible. They overlook the original quarry of Sioux Falls, shaped as an arrowhead, therefore the name for Arrowhead Park. This park is over 130 acres. It's home to natural trails, wildlife viewing, an escape from the urban environment of Sioux Falls, allowing people to experience nature, wildlife, without having to leave town. So with that, I'll turn it over to Jackie Nelson.
Good morning, Jackie Nelson, Recreation Manager. So, as Mike said, not only is Arrowhead Park home to a quarry shaped as an arrowhead, it's also home to several trails, grasslands, and a variety of types of birds and wildlife. It's now also home to this wonderful renovated house, which will be used for public programming as well as public reservations. But before we talk a little bit about the reservation process, I wanted to talk a little bit more about programming and how we will program not only the house but Arrowhead Park. As we program, we want to think through our community needs assessment. Recently, we just completed our most recent one, and nature programming remains a high priority for programming. Therefore, this house will remain a featured area of nature programming for Sioux Falls. It was also a core value for the Weirs who donated the house in terms of nature and serenity. As we talk through programming for this renovated space, we'll be focused on nature education, outdoor exploration, and enjoying and appreciating the nature and natural beauty of this area. Some of our programs that you'll find coming up in our winter guide include Winter Toddler Natural Explorers, Fireside Friends Cozy Tales and Crafts, along with eagle watching, sunrise coffee and yoga, as well as other hikes and snowshoeing events. In addition, we'll be offering summer programs such as summer camps in conjunction with our friends at the Mary Jo Wagner Arboretum this summer. So stay tuned and watch for more of that programming as we move closer to summer. All of our programming can be found within our website at siouxfalls.gov/parks. And with that, I'd like to invite up Mike Cooper with the Arboretum to talk a little bit more about the reservation process.
Thank you. It's good to see all of you. Well, this is a great opportunity for the Mary Jo Wagner Arboretum Society. We have a long partnership with the City of Sioux Falls ever since the Arboretum started in terms of allowing us to manage the facility and run events and programs. The Jasper Education Center opened up in 2013, and since that time we've been allowed to use that facility in addition to the Arboretum grounds for different kinds of rental events, whether it's graduations, weddings, birthday parties, whatever the case might be, and other corporate meetings. And now with the completion of this wonderful venue, the city is allowing us to also reserve this room, this building, for private events, which I think is a great opportunity for the Arboretum in terms of fundraising and also to increase awareness of both the Arboretum and Arrowhead Park. And just as another bit of history, this area includes the quarries, as Mike Patton said, that were part of the old East Sioux Falls Historic Town Site. And that's also part of the Mary Jo Wagner. The Mary Jo Wagner Arboretum that we promote as the history of that area of the old town site where the quarry workers used to be living and working. And when people come out to visit us, one of the main questions is, where are the quarries? And so we tell them, just come across the highway and you can see them out here. But now that we're able to program this building, again, it's going to be available for us to start using. There'll be 3 ways that people will be able to reserve the building for private events with our normal phone number, which is 605-367-4414. That's the Arboretum phone number. Our email address is maryjowagnararboretum@gmail.com. And now we're working on a third way with our website, with the city's help, to be able to do some online reservations. So eventually there'll be 3 ways that people can get access to find out when this building is going to be available. So the Arboretum Society will be using this building strictly for private events. So any city-related events will still be managed through the City Parks and Recreation Department. But again, I think it's going to be a great venue for us to program. The rental rates are going to be the same that we charge at the Jasper Education Center, which is $290 an hour with a minimum of 2 hours. And we also will give a 20% discount for weekday rental events. So that helps us encourage use of it, not only just for evenings or weekends, but also during those weekdays. And we've already had some interest in this facility, and I think once people know more about that's going to be available, that interest is even going to escalate more and more. So again, it's a great opportunity, and we appreciate it on behalf of the Arboretum Society to allow us to use this and promote it on behalf of not only the Arboretum, but also the city of Sioux Falls. So thanks again.
All right, well, thank you so much for joining us this morning, and Mike, Jackie, and I are available for questions. Yes?
How are you guys striking the balance between city use, public use of this facility, and the sort of private rentals? Do you have like a target sort of percentage one way or another?
I'll defer to Mike and Jackie for that.
Thanks.
Well, since we're now just getting into it, I would say that the city events will have priority, and most of them are going to be during more of the weekdays. But as we get more and more interest in this, I think a lot of our main focus is probably going to be on evenings and weekends for the private events. Like you can imagine, next May, every weekend will be available for like a graduation open house. And those are typically on Friday, Saturday, and Sundays. So I think we'll be able to work that out in terms of prioritizing who can use it and make sure that there's no conflicts.
What's the capacity here? Like, how big an event can you have?
65.
Well, it kind of depends on what you're talking about. So this room we can do around 60, 65, depending on the layout. There's also a room in the auxiliary area here for around another 30. So you could have multiple events happening at one time, right, or one large one. And then the deck itself, code-wise is around 175 people. It's a very big space. I encourage you to go out and take a look at it. But between all those different spaces, that would dictate how big a group you could have out here.
Did you say when it's going to be open for private events?
We're open tomorrow if you want to have one. Yeah, we've already had one interest in booking a private event that first week in November, so that was kind of our target. We wanted to make sure that the parking lot and all the other facilities were ready to go. But yeah, I think November is when we'll really start kicking in more of the promotion of the facility.
Are there plans to, like, connect? I think I remember seeing something else somewhere to make it easier to get between the parks.
That's a great question. So Highway 42 is going to be under construction here in the near future, and that's a state joint city project to reconstruct Highway 42. We also call it Arrowhead Parkway. As a part of that project, there'll be a tunnel, a pedestrian connection, that'll link the two parks together. And so you'll have a seamless pedestrian flow transition between the Arboretum and Arrowhead Park.
Is the bike trail, or is it a planned spur out to Green?
Correct. As a part of the bicycle plan, we have the East Side Corridor, which will take people in the future eventually from the side path along Veterans Parkway out to the Mary Jo Wagner Arboretum, and then ultimately into Arrowhead Park. Yes.
I'm Courtney, by the way. I freelance for Jody Schwan, so I'm kind of the face for both of you. But I was just gonna, how excited you are to see this come to fruition and to see the renovations complete, to be able to offer it. It's a beautiful fall day. We look out, we see the water, we see the leaves changing. To be able to offer this to people in the city and the community, to have a gathering, to have an event, to eventually have programming out here. I mean, I imagine you take advantage of some of the city parks and the trails and all the fun amenities for Sioux Falls. What does it mean to you to be able to see this all complete?
Well, from a planning and development standpoint, I think the Arboretum and Arrowhead Park are two maybe lesser known facilities that we have, but they're fantastic, especially in the fall. I mean, the leaves, being in nature, it's just a terrific experience to walk the trails and see all that's out here. And to finally renovate the Arrowhead House itself is kind of a final capstone, at least as far as the recent development plans for the park, right? And so having this be a piece of the park now and available to the public really kind of ties a bow on all the development. But as far as programming, I'll let Mike and Jackie talk to that.
So I'm going to go back to our strategic plan again. So not only was nature programming one of our highest priorities, but year-round programming was also a high priority for us. And this really helps add year-round programming out here at Arrowhead Park. So it's one thing to be able to watch the birds and hike the trails, but it's another to then take that experience and bring it indoors for additional conversation, additional memories with family and friends. So for us, from a programming perspective, it's just going to enhance it. It's going to add additional opportunities for us to do even more with our programming. And I have 2 recreation program specialists who love winter programming. They love to be outside. They're excited for snow. So this is really going to expand their programming and their excitement in terms of what they bring to the city.
Jack, do you have a little context on the history of the house? Was this like a single-family home at some point that was donated, or how did the city come to obtain this property?
Yeah, it was a single-family home that was donated, and I don't know, Mike, do you want to add a little bit more to it?
Sure. So the park itself, including the house, was a donation to the city from Dale and Dorothy Weir. Grew up here in Sioux Falls, loved the community, and it was their way of giving back, right? It was giving this park to the city and opening it up to all, right? And so the original park donation happened in the late 90s. Came to the city, and then Dale lived out his remaining years here in this single-family home. And so there was a period of time when we developed the park, opened it up to the public, but before we could actually get into the house. And so that's when I mentioned earlier, this is kind of the final capstone on the development, was for years we talked about, well, what's the best use for this property? Should it be, or this house, right? Should it be an interpretive center? Should it be a historical homage? Should it be a museum? Should it be a party? Whatever it is. And ultimately, Jackie mentioned the priorities of the city. We needed a place for year-round programming. We needed gathering space, and it just made sense to utilize this house for that purpose.
To the notion of the heritage, you mentioned East Sioux Falls, and the story that's been told, but not very well. How do you tell that story about what this whole area was? Is that part of the mission here now, to bring that East Sioux Falls story to light?
Yeah, you know,
It's done in pieces.
I could try and answer that question, but when it comes to the history of East Sioux Falls, we probably have the expert in the room in Mike Cooper, and he has a whole series of interpretive displays over at the Arboretum side, which is actually kind of where the location of East Sioux Falls was. So Mike, you want to maybe talk a little bit about how you tell that story?
Yeah, thank you for that opportunity. Again, there's that great connection between the 2 properties. Before the highway was built in 1930s, you can imagine that this was all one big open space. But a couple of years ago, with the City of Sioux Falls support, we constructed what we call the History Plaza, which is a replica of the old railroad depot that originally came through in the late 1880s. And in that History Plaza, which is in front of the Jasper Center, we have a lot of historical exhibits about railroading and the quarry industry. But as part of that, we did have some older, larger displays that showed pictures of quarry workers, the quarry itself, that we took down. And so I think this is an opportunity to look at repurposing some of those. But yes, now we can really help tell that story even more of how the 2 areas work together and what the connection of that has been. Because again, when people come out here, I'm pretty sure they're going to want to know even more about how this house got here and more about the quarries themselves. So we'll be promoting that as much as we can.
Just to be clear, these lakes, stories, are the source of some, not much, of the quartzite in the city, right?
Yes, a lot of the historic buildings downtown, the stone came from these quarries.
Any remaining questions? Yes.
You mentioned you can host multiple different events here. How is that space divvied up in terms of when you go to rent this place?
So the rental will be for the building and the deck. So that's the way we're going to program it. We're not going to be renting out the rest of the park. And this building will not be open to the general public except during programmed events, whether it's city events or Arboretum events.